is an emergency. Currently, there's two calamities that are going at it against each other. Wait, what is this? A heavenly light just showed up. Wait, what the is that? Is that Shenron? Holy Damn, what the It roars once and the other two at their pants. It roared once and left without elaborating. Damn, that thing was badass.
Let's go down memory lane and talk about the first encounter with Rayquaza. Once the Emerald story progresses and Archie and Max throw the entire world into the chaos, the former champion and the current champion of the Hoenn region give the responsibility of saving the entire world onto you, the 10-year-old who started his journey last week. Anyways, the first encounter with Rayquaza, you have to follow Wallace into Sky Pillar, where he admits that he left you behind to find this random place in the map all by yourself. After meeting up with Wallace, he ditches you again. He leaves Rayquaza, the mightest, the most badass dragon Pokemon to ever exist on your hands. Anyways, after going through the hell that is the Sky Pillar bike puzzle, you finally meet Rayquaza and awake it from its sleep. Then you fly back to Sootopolis to watch the greatest cutscene that blew people's minds back in 2004, playing on their little Game Boy Advance. In one corner we have Kyogre, and the other we have Groudon, who is standing on a measly bit of land surrounded by the ocean. One splash and he'll die to super effective damage. As these calamities are about to clash, Rayquaza descends from the heavens under a heavenly beam of light. Rayquaza roars once and both Kyogre and Groudon shit their pants, and Kyogre goes underwater and Groudon just goes off screen. Rayquaza found at the very top of Sky Pillar at level 70, the monstrous base stat total of 680. We're not talking about a distribution that favors one niche. We're talking about a beautifully balanced spread that allows it to excel in almost any role, but the real kickers are its 150 attack and 150 special attack. This thing is a dual attacking type. It can hit you with the raw physical damage of a Dragon Ascent or obliterate two targets at once with a Draco Meteor. There's no safe switch in, no easy counter. It's a guaranteed headache for anything standing against Rayquaza. It's one of the most iconic Pokemons to ever be created. When I first caught Rayquaza in Pokemon Emerald years ago, I genuinely had to restrict using this Pokemon against the Elite Four and the champion, as Rayquaza is a beast, and you can easily breeze through the Elite Four with it. Airlock. It's not just an ability. It's as if it's using Conqueror's Hockey. It completely nullifies all weather effects. Groudon's Drought? Gone. Kyogre's Drizzle? Gone. Rayquaza doesn't just adapt to the battlefield, it rewrites the battlefield's rules in its favor. But then Game Freak thought that, this ridiculously overpowered Pokemon needs to be even more overpowered, and Game Freak gave us something truly mind-blowing. Mega Rayquaza. Forget the silly little keystone that every Mega Pokemon needs in order to Mega Evolve. Rayquaza doesn't need that crap. It Mega Evolves by knowing a specific move, Dragon Ascent. That's how inherently powerful this creature is. It holds the key to its own ultimate form within its very being. And what a form it is. Rayquaza is the only Pokemon ever to Mega Evolve without a Mega Stone. To understand this phenomenon, the Devon Corporation has performed numerous tests to understand the anatomy of Rayquaza and why it's able to Mega Evolve without a Mega Stone. It was discovered that inside Rayquaza's body lies an organ that contains the same power as a Megastone. The Devon Corp scientists named this organ the Mikado organ. This organ inside of Rayquaza's stomach worked by consuming meteorites as Rayquaza flies through the stratosphere. The Mikado organ actually fills up with enough energy to Mega Evolve from eating all the meteors. Mikado, Emperor of the Heavens. The Mikado organ within Rayquaza, responsible for its Mega Evolution, has a deeper meaning. Mikado is an archaic Japanese term for the Emperor of Japan. The Emperor was historically seen as a divine figure, a heavenly emperor. This perfectly aligns with Rayquaza's role as the Master of the Skies, and its supreme authority over the Hoenn region's legendary who control the weather. It implies a divine ruling power within its very stomach. It is also a fact that Rayquaza's favorite prey is Minior, which it likes to feast on in the Alola region. The design transformation of Mega Rayquaza is nothing short of majestic. Those glowing, flowing tendrils, the sharper, more aggressive aesthetic, it screams cosmic serpent of ultimate destruction. And its ability, Delta Stream? It doesn't just negate weather, it creates a perpetually strong turbulence. It also weakens attacks that would normally be super effective against flying types. It's a god-tier defensive and offensive buff. Two abilities combined into one, and without the need for holding a Megastone, it benefits with an held item of its choice. This Pokemon is pretty much the pinnacle of power. The Ziz connection. While Quetzalcoatl is a major influence, Rayquaza also draws inspiration from the Ziz, a gigantic, mythical, bird-like creature from Judeo-Christian mythology. The Ziz, along with the Leviathan, a sea monster, and Behemoth, land beast, forms a trio of primordial creatures. This directly parallels Rayquaza's role as the master of the Weather Trio. A few months ago, there was a huge Pokemon leak, and it solidified the theory of the Pokemon hierarchy and the order of the Pokemon universe. From this image, we can see that the Pokemon world was created with Arceus in the center, Dialga and Palkia in by Arceus' side, and the Lake Guardians. Then right outside that we can see the Weather Trio. Let me know if I should cover the secret storyline after the Pokemon leaks in the comments, and also be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks. Rayquaza's Mega Evolution stats, which are actually so powerful that in Smogon's single battle rule set, Mega Rayquaza was almost instantly banned, and a new tier was created specifically for it called Anything Goes, because its power was like no Pokemon that could stand against it. In Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you need to become the champion first, and then the Delta episodes open up, and then only can you catch Mega Rayquaza. You embark on a new quest involving a mysterious character named Zinnia, a lore keeper from the Draconid people. She has her own plans for dealing with the meteoroid that is heading towards Earth. You'll travel across Hone, battling Team Magma or Aqua. As the Delta episode progresses, your journey will eventually lead you back to the iconic Sky Pillar, located north of Route 131. This time, the Sky Pillar is visually redesigned and much more elaborate than in the original games. You'll ascend the tower alongside Zinnia, who will share more of her people's ancient lore as you climb. At the very top of Sky Pillar, Rayquaza will appear. Zinnia attempts to awaken its full power using a keystone, but it won't respond to her because she wasn't the chosen one. Instead, it senses the meteorite you've been carrying, which you receive earlier in the Delta episode. Rayquaza will then consume this meteorite. In an incredible cinematic moment, it will Mega Evolve for the first time ever. After Mega Evolving, Rayquaza still won't join Zinnia. It challenges you, the player, sensing your strength and connection. This triggers a mandatory battle against the mighty level 70 Rayquaza. And then, the ultimate showdown that cemented Rayquaza's place as the ultimate guardian. Its rivalry with Deoxys. This wasn't just two legendaries fighting for who gets to use the Xbox. This was a battle for the very planet. An alien virus. An extraterrestrial threat against the mighty protector of Earth. Rayquaza didn't just win, it dominated. Mega Rayquaza broke through Deoxys' defense form like it was nothing, proving once and for all that when it comes to being the protector of the Earth, Rayquaza is the final, unyielding line of defense. It's our planet's ultimate superhero, a being of such magnitude that puts other legendaries to shame. This video is inspired by ET37's video on why Giratina is peak fiction, so go check that out as well. So yeah, when we talk about Rayquaza, we're not just talking about a Pokemon. We're talking about an icon, a memory, a primal force of nature that perfectly embodies power, balance, and ultimate badassery. It is, without a shadow of a doubt, peak fiction. It's 2016, and you just beat the Elite Four, or in Pokemon X and Y, and you encounter the third legendary of the Kalos region. But something's off. It all feels just incomplete and unfinished, as if Zygarde was disconnected from the storyline from X and Y, but then almost a decade later, Game Freak tied the story of Zygarde in the most extraordinary way possible. They made the single most overpowered Pokemon ever, the legendary with the most aura in the entire franchise. Let's establish the groundwork here. Zygarde has always been the Order Pokemon. The guardian of the ecosystem, the being that maintains balance when the forces of life and destruction threaten to tear everything apart. But here's what makes this so brilliant. Zygarde was never meant to be understood immediately. Its entire existence is modular, scattered, waiting for the moment when it needs to assemble into something greater. The 50% form we first encounter, that's just Zygarde operating at half capacity, cruising through the world, monitoring, observing. Then we learned about the 10% form, this sleek hound-like guardian that can respond to threats quickly. And complete form? That's when all the cells and cores come together to form this towering titan. But even that wasn't the final form. That wasn't Zygarde pushed to its absolute limit. See, what Game Freak understood brilliantly is that Zygarde needed something more than just size or a different configuration. It needed the primal intensity of Mega Evolution, that raw, desperate transformation that occurs when the bond between Pokemon and purpose reaches its breaking point. And that's exactly what we get in Legend ZA. The setup was always there. Kalos, the region of beauty and harmony, was also the birthplace of Mega Evolution, the ultimate weapon that nearly destroyed everything. The conflict between Xerneas and Yveltal, and lurking beneath it all, Zygarde, watching, waiting, ready to intervene when the balance tipped too far. The narrative perfection. Now let's talk about the story implications surrounding Mega Zygarde, because this is where Legend ZA elevates everything to another level. The game takes place in Lumiose City's when humans are pushing the boundaries of what Mega Evolution can do when they're experimenting with forces they don't fully comprehend. And here's the kicker. They're not just playing with fire, they're playing with the fundamental fabric of reality itself. Mega Evolution was always portrayed as this double-edged sword. Yes, it grants incredible power, but at what cost? We've seen Pokédex entries describing the pain, the transformation, the toll it takes. But what happens when you apply that concept to a being whose entire purpose is maintaining balance? What happens when the Guardian itself must transcend its limits? That's where Mega Zygarde enters the picture, and the thematic weight is absolutely staggering. This isn't just another transformation for a competitive edge or to look cool in battles. This is Zygarde recognizing that standard measures won't suffice. The threat facing Kalos, facing the world, is so catastrophic that it requires the Order Pokemon to break its own rules, to push beyond the equilibrium it normally maintains, and become something more aggressive, more decisive, more absolute. The brilliance here is in the contradiction. Zygarde exists to preserve balance, but Mega Evolution is inherently unbalanced. Its excessive power, raw transformation, temporary but overwhelming force. For Zygarde to embrace Mega Evolution means the situation has deteriorated beyond conventional intervention. It's the ecological guardian saying, "The scales have tipped so far that I must become the counterweight no matter the cost." And this ties directly into the story of Legend ZEA. We're up against Ange the Tower, an entity or phenomenon that threatens to consume Lumiose City, possibly all of Kalos. 3 millennia ago, AZ was a king, caught up in a devastating war that consumed Kalos. Many Pokemon lost their lives, and in the chaos, AZ's beloved Floette, a Pokemon with a unique black flower, was sent to the front lines where she died. Most people grieve and eventually move on. AZ had the resources and knowledge to do something about it. He created a device that could grant life, and he used it to revive his Floette. It worked. She came back. But here's the horrifying truth. AZ was so hurt and traumatized that they had hurt his beloved Floette that he relaunched the ultimate weapon to end the war once and for all. Floette was brought back at the cost of countless other lives. AZ's rage at the war hadn't subsided. He couldn't forgive the world that had hurt the Pokemon he loved, so he transformed his device into the ultimate weapon. The weapon fired a beam of light that reached into the heavens and poured down, burning away everything upon the earth. AZ ended the war by becoming destruction itself, committing genocide to stop the conflict. The war ended, but Floette realized the truth. She understood that the life AZ had given her was stolen from other Pokemon, that thousands or millions had died so she could live. She couldn't bear it. Floette left AZ and wandered alone for 3,000 years. AZ has been alive since before the rise and fall of countless civilizations. He watched empires crumble. Technology evolved from primitive tools to modern innovations. Outlived everyone he ever knew. And through all that time, the one being he loved most wanted nothing to do with him because of what he'd done. But AZ didn't just wander aimlessly. About 2,000 years ago, during his wandering, a man of great power asked for his help with a way to protect Kalos. Instead of making another device that would take from others, AZ decided to make one that would share the eternal life he had given Floette. He called it Ange, and he embedded it into Prism Tower in Lumiose City. Ange was designed as the opposite of the ultimate weapon. Where the ultimate weapon destroyed life, Ange would grant eternal life to all living beings it touched. It was AZ's attempt to give meaning to the curse he had placed on Floette, his way of atoning by creating something that could benefit everyone rather than stealing from them. He planned to activate it after reuniting with Floette, but that day never came. They lived in a time of peace, and Ange remained dormant. Fast forward to 5 years before Legends, Lysandra, leader of Team Flare, discovered the ultimate weapon buried beneath Geosenge Town. His philosophy was that the world was growing too crowded, that resources would run out, and the only way to create a world of beauty was to reduce the number of living things. So he activated the ultimate weapon. There was an explosion. Zygarde, the legendary guardian of Kalos, intervened and used its power to protect all living things in the area from the deadly light, saving even Lysandra himself, but doing so exhausted Zygarde's power. And the weapon's activation had an unintended consequence. It awakened Ange. Ange, sensing danger, began emitting excessive amounts of mega power. This energy started causing wild Pokemon throughout Lumiose City to undergo rogue mega evolution, a state where Pokemon mega evolve without trainers and experience immense pain and aggression. This is the crisis the entire game revolves around, all because of AZ's original sin 3,000 years ago and Lysandra's actions 5 years ago. The design philosophy. Let's shift gears and talk about what Mega Zygarde actually looks like, because the design work here is absolutely phenomenal. Game Freak didn't just slap some spikes on complete form and called it a day. They understood that this transformation needed to communicate something essential about what Mega Zygarde represents. The first thing you notice is the intensity. Complete Form A Zygarde already has this imposing, titanic presence. It's massive, it's authoritative, it screams Guardian. But Mega Zygarde takes that foundation and sharpens it into something more militant, more ready for war. The geometric patterns across its body become more pronounced, more angular, giving it this almost crystalline quality that suggests it's hardened itself against whatever threats it faces. The colors shift too. That signature green that represents life and growth, it becomes more vivid, almost luminescent, like Zygarde is channeling the very essence of vitality itself. The black and red accents become more prominent, reminder that this is a being that understands destruction must sometimes answer destruction, that protecting life means being willing to end threats decisively. And then there's the hexagonal motif that runs throughout the design. Those hexagons aren't just aesthetic, they represent the core and cells, the fundamental building blocks of Zygarde's existence, now arranged in perfect, unbreakable formation. It's showing you that this is Zygarde at maximum cohesion, every single cell aligned toward a singular purpose, no fragment wasted, no potential left untapped. The eyes are what really sell it. They burn with this righteous intensity that tells you this Pokemon isn't just powerful, it's resolute. It has made a decision and nothing will deter it from its purpose. There's no uncertainty in those eyes, no hesitation, just absolute conviction. Power beyond measure. Alright, now let's get into the fun part, just how absurdly powerful Mega Zygarde actually is. And I need to emphasize something crucial here. We're not talking about competitive viability or tier lists or any of that metagame analysis. We're talking about raw, canonical, in-universe power. We're talking about what this Pokemon can actually do in the narrative context of Legend ZA. First, the stats. When complete form of Zygarde has a base stat total of 708. That's Arceus territory, that's creation trio levels. But Mega Evolution typically adds 100 points to a Pokemon's base stat total. That potentially puts Mega Zygarde at 808, which would make it one of the most statistically overwhelming Pokemon ever conceived. But Game Freak knew that it would literally break the power scaling system. So instead of 100 base stats, they gave Mega Zygarde only a 70 stat boost. We're still looking at something that numerically eclipses almost everything else in existence. But stats are just numbers on a screen. Let's talk about what Mega Zygarde actually does in Legend ZA's climax, because this is where the glazing really begins, and it's completely justified. When Ange the Tower emerges as the final the game makes it absolutely clear that this isn't just another legendary Pokemon gone rogue or a villain scheme spiraling out of control. Ange represents genuine existential danger. It's warping reality, consuming matter, threatening to reduce Lumia City and potentially the entire Kalos region to absolute nothingness. The player character, despite everything they've accomplished, despite all the Pokemon they've trained and bonds they have formed, cannot stop this alone. Mega Energy lets Pokemon use a powerful version of moves called Plus moves. The game suggests that Plus moves are like Z moves, meaning the Z Crystal phenomenon was also a consequence of the launch of the ultimate weapon by AZ 3,000 years ago. The Tower Ange takes over Mega Floette, causing it to go rogue and causing every Pokemon nearby to undergo Rogue Mega Evolution as well. But the protagonist, with the help of Zygarde, who tests you throughout the entire game, is given a small pebble as a token of respect. But it turns out that in the heat of the battle, that gift from Zygarde turns into the first Mega Stone, which can Mega Evolve Zygarde, Mega Zygarde, the absolute form, the final answer. And the game doesn't hold back in showing you what this transformation means. The Mega Evolution sequence itself is reportedly unlike anything we've seen before. All across Kalos, every cell, every core, every fragment of Zygarde's distributed consciousness converges on Lumiose City. The ground shakes, the sky tears open with green light, and then Mega Zygarde manifests in its complete glory, towering over the city, a colossus of order standing against the void. The climactic battle. The battle against Rogue Mega Floette alongside Mega Zygarde is apparently the single most spectacular set piece Game Freak has ever created, and from everything we know, they weren't exaggerating. This isn't a standard trainer battle where you're commanding the Pokemon. This is a collaborative struggle where you're fighting alongside Mega Zygarde, supporting it, enabling it to channel its full power against a threat that defies conventional combat. Mega Zygarde's moveset in this battle showcases exactly why it's the perfect counter against Ange. We're talking about attacks that don't just damage but restore order. 1,000 arrows and 1,000 waves take on new significance here. They're not just ground-type moves anymore. They're Zygarde imposing physical reality on something that wants to dissolve it, pinning down the void, forcing it to exist so it can be combated. And then there's Core Enforcer, which in this context becomes something else entirely. Core Enforcer has always been about suppressing abilities, about reducing opponents to their base form. Against Nihil Light, it becomes Zygarde's ultimate assertion of order. You will exist within the rules, you will be subject to natural law, your attempt to exist outside reality will be rejected. As the battle reaches its crescendo, Mega Zygarde doesn't just overpower Nihil Light through brute force, it restructures the battlefield itself. The very terrain responds to Mega Zygarde's presence. becoming ordered, stable, real. Zygarde's core Enforcer changes into Nihil Light. It's a pun on annihilate. The name itself, Nihil meaning nothing, void, absence, suggests something that doesn't just destroy but erases, that doesn't just kill but removes things from existence entirely. How do you fight nothingness? How do you combat something that seeks to reduce everything to zero? Mega Zygarde's last resort is in its mega form to annihilate and turn Ange into nothingness. It's perfect storytelling. This is the Order Pokemon operating at maximum capacity. It's not just fighting an enemy, it's rewriting the fundamental rules of the engagement to ensure victory. Nihil Light wants to reduce things to nothing. It fills the void with absolute existence, with such overwhelming presence that absence cannot stand against it. The visual spectacle of this moment is breathtaking. Mega Zygarde, glowing with that intense green radiance, standing at the center of reality itself, holding the line against oblivion, every cell visible across its form, pulsing with synchronized energy. Lumio City's lights flickering back on behind Mega Zygarde as it pushes back the void, section by section, street by street, until finally the threat is contained. The thematic triumph. What makes this so perfectly executed from a storytelling perspective is that Mega Zygarde's victory isn't just about being stronger. It's about being exactly what was needed at exactly the right moment. This is the payoff to everything Zygarde represents as a concept. Think about the thematic layers at play here. Mega Evolution has always been about bonds, about the connection between trainer and Pokemon, pushing them both beyond limits. But Mega Zygarde's transformation isn't triggered by a trainer's bond. It's triggered by Zygarde's bond with the ecosystem itself, with the world it's sworn to protect. Every living thing in Kalos, every tree, every river, every person, every Pokemon, they're all part of the network that enables Mega Zygarde's transformation. It's the ultimate expression of interconnection, of how individual elements combine into something greater, where Ange is, isolation, erasure, the end of connection. Mega Zygarde is the embodiment of unity. It's literally composed of hundreds of individual cells choosing to act as one. Its power comes from cooperation, from every piece working in perfect harmony. It's thematically perfect. When Mega Zygarde finally neutralizes Mega Ange, when Lumio City is saved and reality is secured, the transformation doesn't end in triumph. It ends in exhaustion. Mega Zygarde reverts, and Zygarde separates back into its cores and cells, scattering across Kalos once more, needing time to recover from the toll of becoming something it was never meant to sustain. It was a last resort. It was the Guardian breaking itself to save what it guards. And that's heroism in its purest form. This represents Game Freak at their absolute best, doing what Pokemon has always done when it's firing on all cylinders, creating beings that are more than just battle mechanics, more than just stat distributions and type matchups. Mega Zygarde is the resolution to a story that began in Generation 6, a generation that honestly got criticized for not fully exploring Zygarde's potential, but that wasn't incomplete storytelling, that was patience. That was Game Freak saying, "You don't understand what we're building yet, but you will." And now we do. Legend ZA takes everything that Zygarde was, everything it represented, and pushes it to the absolute logical extreme. This is how you do a legendary Pokemon justice. You don't just make it strong for the sake of being strong. You don't just give it a cool design and call it a day. You embed it in narrative, you give it meaning, you make its power inseparable from what it represents. Mega Zygarde is powerful because the story demands that level of power. It looks epic because it's fulfilling an epic purpose. Every aspect of its design, its abilities, its role in the plot, they all align perfectly. And let's be real about something else. Mega Zygarde looks absolutely incredible. The design is clean, imposing, memorable. When you see it standing there, Guardian Incarnate, Protector at maximum intensity, you believe it can do what the story says it can do. There's no dissonance between appearance and function. It looks exactly how the ultimate expression of order and protection should look. Powerful, unbreakable. This is the standard that legendary Pokemon should be held to. Not just is it strong in battles, but does it mean something? Mega Zygarde means everything. It's the answer to questions Pokemon fans have been asking for years. It's the culmination of themes that have run through the franchise since Generation 6. It's proof that Game Freak still knows how to craft these incredible moments that remind us why we fell in love with Pokemon in the first place. Giratina, the renegade Pokemon, unveiling the devil of the Pokemon world. Arceus being the primordial creator, often revered as the original one, this entity is described as having breathed alone before the universe came, emerging from a single egg of light within an absolute void to shape all of existence. This depiction firmly establishes Arceus as the definitive god figure within the Pokemon universe, a being of ultimate power and genesis. From this singular, omnipotent creator, the narrative naturally extends to the creation of other fundamental forces. Arceus brought forth Dialga, the master of time and Palkia, the Lord of Space, to aid in the universe's formation. Alongside them, Giratina was also conceived, destined to embody antimatter. However, unlike its ride or dies, Giratina quickly demonstrated a unique and problematic nature within this divine trio, setting the stage for its distinct cosmic role in the whole of the Pokemon universe. A fan theory in popular online communities positions Giratina as the devil or Satan counterpart to Arceus. The explicit labeling of Arceus as the original one is more than just a description. It is a deliberate invocation of foundational mythological archetypes, particularly the singular, omnipotent creator deity found in many religions. By establishing this god figure, the narrative implicitly creates a conceptual space for its antithesis. The idea of Giratina as the devil is therefore a natural extension of the archetypal framework laid down by freaking Masuda, the creator of Pokemon itself. This suggests that the Pokemon universe is built upon deep, universal mythological structures that resonate with common human narratives of creation and opposition. Chapter 1. Arceus' creation and Giratina's banishment. Arceus' role as the universe's forefather is central to the Sinnoh creation myth. It emerged from a single egg of light from an absolute void, possessing near unlimited power to shape the cosmos. To facilitate this grand design, Arceus created three powerful entities to embody fundamental forces: Dialga, who governs time, Palkia, who controls space, and Giratina, who represents antimatter. This establishes Giratina as a distinct component of the cosmic fabric designed by Arceus. Arceus' two sides were different. One side represented light and the other represented dark. It is said that he puts his light into Dialga, and his darkness into Palkia. But I think this is where the story altered. I theorized that Giratina was the darkness of Arceus, and that Dialga and Palkia both represent the light of Arceus. To back this theory, which had a lot of plot holes with the original tale, but after the release of Pokemon Legends Arceus, Giratina would finally, after almost 2 decades, get a new Pokedex entry, which says, "There is one Hisuian verse that tells of a powerful light creating a deep shadow." I imagine that this deep shadow is Giratina. So this new Pokedex entry pretty much confirms that Giratina is in fact the darkness within Arceus. Now let's look at its origin form Pokedex entry. Giratina loses its legs, changing into this form. I believe this Pokemon must hail from a world where the heavens and the earth are as one. This is insane. In the original tale from the leak, it is confirmed that Dialga is to represent the Pokemon side of existence, and Palkia represents the human being's existence. Dialga is standing on 4 legs, and Palkia is standing on 2 legs. Now if we look at origin form Giratina, just like the new Pokedex entry that got added into Legends Arceus, which says that Giratina loses its legs upon changing forms, meaning it represents neither Pokemon nor human, but it is something entirely different. It is Arceus' shadow itself, contrast to its irregular form, which has 6 legs. This would contrast the combined legs from Dialga's 4 legs and Palkia's 2 legs, alluding to the fact that it represents both human and Pokemon just like Arceus. Giratina is often compared to Arceus, rather than Dialga and Palkia. It is also confirmed that the Arceus that we see in-game is just an avatar. So I think that Giratina is more relative to Arceus' avatar form, and since Giratina is its shadow, it can't just remove his malice entirely, so it would banish him to his own realm or existence, the distortion world. Even in canon shoots, we see Dialga and Palkia usually being up against Giratina. It is worth noting that even Dialga and Palkia required the assistance of the Lake Trio to help control and calm them, hinting at the immense and potentially volatile nature of these primordial forces. After their creation, Dialga and Palkia left the universe to observe from afar in their own domains, implying a harmonious, ordered existence in their respective realms of time and space. However, Giratina's journey immediately diverged. During the very process of creation, Giratina exhibited violence and anger, traits deemed unfitting for Arceus' universe. This pivotal moment set Giratina apart from its brethren and led to severe consequences. Chapter 2. The Distortion World. The Distortion World serves as Giratina's true home, an alternate dimension or reverse world that exists on the reverse side of ours. This realm is characterized by its bizarre and unsettling physics, where gravity and time are completely warped. Time is said to not flow, and spatial relations are shown to be irregular, allowing individuals to walk on walls and even surf on waterfalls without any apparent effort. This creates a profound sense of an inverted chaotic reality, a stark contrast to the ordered and predictable Pokemon world. The aesthetics of the Distortion World further contributes to its desolate and almost hellish atmosphere. It features a rust-colored landmass separated into tiny islands with spiky and incredibly tall trees that resemble giant kelp. The complete absence of other Pokemon, with fishing yielding no results, emphasizes isolation and unique nature. Its occasional appearance in ancient cemeteries further links it to themes of death in the underworld, reinforcing its ominous character. Game Freak has officially stated that Giratina and the Distortion World are personifications of antimatter. The stated goal behind their design was to convey a sense of bipolarity. Scientifically, antimatter is the polar opposite to matter, and results in annihilation upon contact. This inherent destructive potential means that Giratina's domain, by its very nature, poses a constant threat to the material universe. However, the lore departs from strict scientific principles, as characters can enter the Distortion World without being annihilated, highlighting that the concept is used more as a mythological or a symbolic representation rather than a literal scientific one. Within its home dimension, Giratina manifests its true power. It possesses two distinct forms: the altered form, which is its standard appearance when outside its home dimension, and the origin form, which is its true form, and is active within the Distortion World, or when holding a Griseous Orb or Griseous Core. In its origin form, Giratina is at its full power and can pass through dimensions at will, making it an incredibly formidable ruler of its chaotic realm. Its unique abilities, such as Shadow Force, allow it to disappear and strike from the shadows, further enhancing its shadowy, elusive, and powerful nature. While initially presented as a place of banishment, the Distortion World's properties as a realm of antimatter and reversed physics elevate it beyond a mere prison. It functions as a fundamental existential counterpart to the material universe. The theory, proposed by characters like Cynthia and Cyrus, that the Distortion World was created by Giratina itself, as a balance for the real world, is crucial. This implies that the Distortion World is not merely a consequence of Giratina's violence, but a necessary component for cosmic equilibrium. This transforms the Devil's Realm from a place of pure evil to a vital, albeit chaotic, balancing force, much like how chaos is sometimes seen as essential for creation in certain mythologies. The developer's stated goal of conveying bipolarity through Giratina and the Distortion World offers a profound understanding of its role. This is not simply about good versus evil, but about fundamental opposites, matter and antimatter, order and chaos, creation and distortion, that exist in tandem. This suggests a philosophical underpinning to the Sinnoh lore, exploring dualism and the idea that for something to exist, its opposite must also exist. Giratina, then, embodies this necessary other side, the darkness required for light to be defined. This elevates the devil comparison from a literal interpretation to a symbolic representation of cosmic duality, where Giratina's existence is a necessary counterpoint to Arceus' creation. Giratina's altered form has a large gray draconic, 6 thick legs, 3 gold half rings on neck, 2 large horns, a black stripe with 5 red horizontal stripes, 2 large black ghostly wings with 3 red tips each. Standard forms outside Distortion World. Standard appearance, less powerful than origin form. Pressure or telepathy as hidden abilities. Its origin form has a serpentine floating, legs reduced to golden tip spikes, 4 additional golden spikes near tail, 6 gold half rings, can grip objects, horns, face backward. True form within Distortion World or holding Griseous Orb. True form, full power, capable of dimensional travel, always levitated. Levitate is its origin form ability. Chapter 3, The Devil's Mark. Visuals, titles, and numerology. The official designation of Giratina as the Renegade Pokemon carries significant symbolic weight. This title directly evokes the image of a rebel or traitor, aligning perfectly with the Luciferian narrative of a powerful being cast out for defiance against its creator. This designation shapes fan theories, making the devil comparison almost inevitable. Giratina's visual design further reinforces these fiendish associations. Its altered form features tattered wings that may represent wings of a demon, and yellow horns on either side of its face may be similar to horns commonly seen on imps, devils, etc. The origin form, with a distinct snake-like appearance, draws a strong visual allegory to the biblical serpent in the Garden of Eden, a potent symbol for deceit and original sin. The color palette of red, gold, and black is also frequently associated with infernal or malevolent entities across various mythologies, further enhancing its ominous presence. Its ghost/dragon typing contributes to its ancient, otherworldly, and foreboding aura. A pervasive fan theory links Giratina's anatomy to the number of the beast, 666. Specific examples cited include 6 upper leg gold designs, 6 lower leg gold designs, 6 feet in its altered form, In its origin form, the theory points to 6 wing spikes, 6 ribs around its neck, and 6 legs, spikes where its wings used to be. While the exact number of the beast is debated in theological contexts, this numerical symbolism is a strong driver of the devil theory among fans. This illustrates a tension between fan interpretation and official intent. While Game Freak's stated inspirations for Giratina were antimatter and relativity, not explicitly Satan, the powerful cultural symbols embedded, whether intentionally or coincidentally, in its design are readily read into by the audience. This highlights how visual cues, regardless of original creator intent, can profoundly shape audience perception and generate extensive fan lore to boot. The reliance on Judeo-Christian symbolism, such as Lucifer, the serpent, and the number 666, for the devil comparison, reveals how deeply ingrained these archetypes are in Western pop culture. The observation that fans often force comparisons and give priority to speculative information instead of official sources, when it comes to this theory, underscores the power of these cultural constructs. It suggests that the devil is less a specific literal entity in Pokemon, and more a conceptual space that Giratina occupies due to its narrative role as the banished, opposing force to a god figure, coupled with its ominous design. This shifts the discussion from a literal, "is it Satan?" to a more academic examination of how Giratina embodies the archetype of the devil in a modern cultural context. Something interesting is that Giratina's design is definitely based on the Eden snake from Genesis, the devil. It had legs, but when influenced humans to sin, it lost it. And Beta Giratina design is surely based of cherubim. Even the jewels on its sides resembles a passage on Bible. The most insane part of this that I'm talking is that these references are very explicit in role in both Giratina designs, the beta as well as the final form. Redditor by the name of It Go Boom 31 states an interesting theory. I don't think Volo was the reason why Giratina stopped Cyrus. With Legends, Volo specifically states, "I originally sought out Giratina and had it tear open that rift in space and time. After all, Giratina wished to stand against Arceus." Giratina wasn't working with Volo to destroy the world. Volo just intended to create a problem to get Arceus' attention so he could meet Arceus. Giratina was working with Volo to bait out Arceus, probably for revenge. But in Platinum, Giratina does the same thing again. It once again opens a rift in time and space above Spear Pillar, the Temple of Sinnoh. This time Giratina is actively trying to stop Cyrus. I always took it that Giratina directly intervened. I thought this was due to the distortion in the Pokemon worlds being connected. Both need each other to survive. It acts mostly the same way in both games. But there's no way to say why Giratina is acting this way. It could be out of a selfish desire to protect the distortion world. It just so happens that the Pokemon world is also needed for that. Giratina could be kind and directly helping out the Pokemon world, supported by a Cynthia quote in Masters. I think Giratina is actually a kind soul, watching over our world from the shadows to protect us. Either way, it seems that Giratina had no malice towards the Pokemon world, but it isn't afraid to risk things to meet its agenda. Another user named Bad Time Trio states, "Actually, there is something in Legends Arceus that explains that to us." After catching Giratina in the quest line, Professor Laviton explains that according to Volo, Giratina, that it chose to protect the land of Hisui after discovering it was no match for you. Not to mention Cynthia isn't wrong, there is actually a myth about Giratina protecting Pokemon or something. In fact, Giratina was never banished for being evil, but rather it was its violence. Violence could be interpreted by physical force intended to hurt, but its other meaning is strength of emotion or of a destructive natural force. This could explain why Giratina has a grudge with Arceus, because it was banished for something that it was created with. To summarize it all, this theory explores the lore surrounding Giratina and its perceived role as the devil counterpart to Arceus, the god figure in the Pokemon universe. It details how Arceus, as the primordial creator, brought forth Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, is the shadow casted by Arceus. Giratina's banishment to the distortion world for its violence and anger is a central point, drawing parallels to the Luciferian myth. The distortion worlds described as Giratina's chaotic home, embodying antimatter and presenting a stark contrast to the material universe. Giratina's two forms, altered and origin form, and their powers. Furthermore, it examines the visual cues, such as Giratina's renegade Pokemon title and design elements, and fan theories, including the number of the beast symbolism that reinforce its devil archetype.